Good morning.
How was day one?
Day one, we still got it going right now and stuff, but no. Look, I think it's fed off of what we've seen the last few days, even through our rookie camp games too. Players have come in shape. They're excited about being here, excited about interacting with their new coaching staff. I think it was a very difficult practice out there. There was a lot of intensity, a lot of battle, and no, to me it was a good first session. Look forward to seeing what can happen in session number 2 here.
Thoughts? What can you share with us about the message you and Lane delivered to the team to kick off camp?
No, I think the biggest thing, and Lane will talk to you guys about it a little bit more here later on this afternoon, is just beginning our identity. Like, we can talk about what do we want the identity of the Kraken, this and that, but every year it's a new adjustment, but especially with bringing in new players, bringing in young players, bringing in new staff, it's going to take time to implement that, but I think you saw it in day one. Intensity, making sure we're in shape, making sure we're a team that's, going to bring a lot of depth, a lot of 4 lines. It's what we've talked about throughout the summer on implementing our young players into our system, but also going out and getting a player like Gaudreau or Marchment or Lindgren to add more depth to our situation here. And I've talked about it before throughout the summer, and it's certainly the case. You look at the schedule, we're going to need a lot of depth. It's an exciting season. I think from a hockey perspective, we all are so excited about the Olympics and what it's going to do to grow our sport, but it makes it very difficult on our team when traveling out west, and that's why it's going to be really important throughout this entire training camp of not only evaluating players that are going to be here for Game 1 against Anaheim, but who are the players that we're going to be calling up as the season progresses.
Jason, you were quoted as saying that you envisioned the Kraken being in the mix for a playoff spot for the next couple of years.
Yep.
And I was wondering what the long-term blueprint is for getting to that Stanley Cup contender status, and if you had any type of timeline in your mind about when you might get there.
No, I think within our own locker room right now, I think we have a coach that's won a Stanley Cup. We have 6 players that won a Stanley Cup. They're all obviously always driven. I think we look at our roster, competing for a playoff spot is something that certainly is our expectations. It's a very difficult league. I think a big messaging that we're going to have to continue to focus in on is player development. And when we talk about player development, people think it's just the young players. Yes, we're going to work very closely with a Catton, a Newman, a Shane Wright to take the next step. But we're also going to be working a lot from a player development standpoint to get out of our own players, our veteran players. But we like our mix here right now of veteran players and younger players. I think it's going to be a continued evolution on making sure our younger players are coming to the system. A big one that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of weeks is just where Catton fits in from that mix. But we're excited about the veteran players that are coming to Seattle, being part of a group here, and the younger players developing to eventually get in the playoffs and then make the step, whether to see when we're going to make that next step after getting in the playoffs. I think it depends on how we do in the playoffs and our success there.
It's been a while since, about 3 months since you and Ron have kind of got your new roles and everything.
Yep.
How's the dynamic changed between you two since taking on those new roles, and what does it look like now?
Nothing's changed. It's a situation where I'm more in Seattle. I'm around the team a little bit more from that perspective, but our communication, when I wasn't in Seattle, I still talked to Ron every day. And from that standpoint, we're continuing that mix. And as the season progresses, Ron won't be on the road as much, but there will be more situations utilizing his assets, his knowledge of the game, whether that's with our own prospects, like a Jake O'Brien, or getting down to Coachella Valley from that perspective there. But no, we're both ecstatic about the season, ready to get things going here from that standpoint, and looking forward to Game 1.
Thoughts, any standout players from rookie camp in the week and games and practice?
Yeah, look, like I said before, we were very impressed with how players came in, for the shape that they came in, the pace that they had for practices. I thought the 2 games against Vancouver were great, especially the first game up in Everett. Just our ability to come back in that game. I think what got you excited was just the speed that Berkeley showed through the neutral zone, his willingness to shoot. I thought Yanni Newman in the practices did a great job. You can certainly see he's a player that has come into camp with the goal of, I'm making the team. You come to these rookie tournaments or rookie sort of weeks, you have these junior players who are looking to make an impression before going back to their junior team. You have other players who are, looking to make an impact to be a call-up player. And then you have the other grit players who are looking to make the team. And Yanni's come in with that mindset and stuff for sure. On the back end, I thought a player like Caden Price did very well in the 2 games from that perspective. Viliot Devain's come in great shape. I think goaltending continues to be a strength, from in our prospect pool. I thought both Osman and Coco did a nice job.
Speaking of goalies, you have 3 goalies here with
Yep.
NHL experience. Do you have any plan for how that's all going to shake out at this point, or do you kind of just see how it goes here in camp and let them compete?
Yeah, they're certainly going to be competing. We're ecstatic that Joey got the opportunity to be at the USA orientation camp. He certainly deserved that opportunity. Joey's done a great job of, I think, the last couple of years developing into a really number 1 goalie in the National Hockey League, and it's great to see. It's just great to see a goalie that was playing games for us in the Calder Cup finals to now being in the mix to possibly make a U.S. Olympic team. So ecstatic from that standpoint. We've talked about it earlier in different positions, forward, D-men, adding sort of depth in those roles, competition in those roles, and we've certainly done that with the goaltending position too. We're going to need the 3 of them throughout the year. As I talked to you before, we're ecstatic about Coco and Osman as young goalies developing our system, but you don't want to throw them in NHL games until they're ready. They need to play at the American Hockey League, go from there. We'll continue to evaluate the situation. We have ideas on carrying 3 goalies. We also have ideas if there's injuries that we have to make an adjustment from that standpoint, but we're ready for it, whatever materializes over the next couple of weeks.
Jason, do you see the possibility for Matt Murray to win an NHL job with you coming out of camp? Is that competition there between him and Grubauer to potentially have that?
Yeah, I think the opportunity, there's a competition there for sure. I think there's different scenarios where we've looked at being able to carry 3 goalies. And you just, like we talked about before, how condensed some of the games are, I think you're going to need 3 goalies throughout the season.
With Monty's little surgery,
Yep.
A couple weeks off the ice, does that put him being ready for the 7th at all in jeopardy?
Not from our standpoint, right? And it's why he went with the procedure right now, is to make sure. He's had a pretty exciting summer overall. Like last time he was with the Kraken, he goes to the World Championships, did very well over at the World Championships, gets the opportunity to go to the Canadian orientation camp, which was great to see. He's coming in great shape. It's disappointing he can't be out there right away because he is a driver of our intensity and our pace of practices. But we tried to get this procedure done now so he doesn't have to deal with it throughout the season. And our whole mindset is he'll be ready to go for Game 1 against Anaheim.
I've been able to talk with Tad a lot about in Kansas City
Yep.
about the continuity between all 3 organizations and how that impacts the player perspective. I'm wondering, now that there's been some change of personnel out here at the main club in the
Yep.
NHL, how does that hopefully help with what Lane is doing and what your new role is?
No, it's a situation where we understand every player is at sort of a different level. They develop at a different time. And, I think what we're really proud of as an organization is what we've created in Coachella Valley and what we've created in Kansas City. You look at both those programs, they've had success on the ice with wins, and they've done a great job in developing. And I know our players, especially our young players, first-year pros, they all want to be in Coachella Valley. Eventually, they all want to be in Seattle, for sure. But, hey, sometimes it takes them a little bit extra time. We need to get the game situations, being involved with the things in Kansas City. And to me, it's been a great sort of feeder system to get back into Coachella Valley and then eventually get up to the National Hockey League. So very proud of what we've done from a development standpoint at all 3 levels, and looking forward to another strong year in all 3 spots.
Jason, going back to Murray for a second, I know you
Yep.
have a long history with him. How have you seen his last couple years coming off the year out, missing for the surgery and the injury and such? And I know
Yep.
he didn't play much in the league last year, but he had good numbers with the Marlies. What'd you kind of make of where he's at right now?
Look, I think Matt realizes this is a big opportunity for him, right? And I think it's been talked about already. Like, he feels healthy, he feels ready to go. Just looking at him, like, this is years ago when I worked with him, and when he started out in Pittsburgh, like, he was so skinny with his upper body. He was, so frail from that standpoint. He's worked very hard at his conditioning to add more strength, be ready to go with it. He's obviously had to deal with some surgeries, which has been difficult, but you see a player who is, I think hungry to win a spot and hungry to get back to the National Hockey League. His familiarity with myself is great, very helpful. His familiarity with Lane, being a part of Toronto last year, his familiarity with Colin, just from Thunder Bay area, I think, bodes extremely well for him.
There's been some recent reports about elements of the new CBA that will be phased in through this season.
Yep.
One that seems like it's kind of open-ended is about 19-year-olds playing, CHL players playing in the AHL.
Yep.
What's the latest that you know on that?
Well, I think you're going to realize throughout it, like it's great that we have the CBA in place moving forward, and it's great for hockey. It's great that we're going to have that continuity. They're still obviously sort of finalizing when things are going to happen, whether it's this year, next year, July 15th, 2026. At the end of the day, though, this is more of an NHL CHL agreement situation. So for this upcoming year, 19-year-olds will certainly not be able to play in the American Hockey League, is our understanding.
What do you see as the biggest change for a front office to handle out of those changes to the CBA? Is it the not being able to take on the contracts and trades like you used to be able to? Is it any aspect of it? What kind of stands out to you as the biggest kind of change in?
To be honest, there's nothing that jumps out at you like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a huge impact on us and stuff. I think it's, to be honest, like these are the rules. You abide by it. We have some cap flexibility right now. We have roster flexibility. I think that helps us quite a bit from that standpoint. And from just more of a fun standpoint, no dress code for the players. I think you're going to see some interesting attire at the games and stuff too. So, look, overall, I think it's an exciting time. Both Lane and myself were at meetings in Detroit a couple weeks ago, and you look around the league. We touched base on it, like just getting things up and going. The success of the last couple of Stanley Cups have been great. The feedback from the four nations, and now everyone leading towards the Olympics. I think it's an exciting time for our sport.
Jason, you mingled with the season ticket holders on Sunday. I was wondering what kind of feedback and what kind of vibe you were getting from them.
Hey, look, it was supportive. I thought it was a great environment right there. And I think you see a game at the National Hockey League level, you always see the talent, and it's impressive, but you are always a little further back. Being in our environment here at KCI, so close to the ice, you just realize how quick the game is and how fast these players are moving out there. We were just even talking about it today, right? You understand that Mr. Alexiak is a big man, but then you get right up against the glass. It's amazing how big he is. Or just I think from day one here, looking at Shane Wright, he's gained an extra step out there, and just him utilizing his speed through the neutral zone. So that was a lot of the feedback from the season tickets. Just great being that close, interacting with our players there.
What are you looking for Matty Beniers to focus on in this camp to get ready to take a step forward this upcoming season?
Well, the great thing with Matty is I think he has an amazing assessment of his game, and just little things from since the last time he played in Seattle here, right? He goes to the World Championships and wins a gold medal, right? Outstanding, awesome, great to get that winning mentality back in him. And then what the things that he needs to work on are the same things that we've talked about, right? And this always still goes back to how great of an experience it was for him to be part of the playoff run his first year, his first full year. He had a success in that playoff run, but also going up against a player like McKinnon or going up against Rupe Hintz, it's challenging, and you have to continue to add strength, and he understands that, and he's continued to do that throughout the summers on the importance of not only working on his game on the ice, but off the ice. I think on the ice, he continues to understand we love his two-way play. He's always going to have that defensive mindset, and the more that we can help him grow his offensive game, whether that's putting him in better shooting positions, putting him in, get into the net more, those are the key things. And it then ties into just our entire team. Where do offensive players get a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence? Power play. We've talked about both power play and penalty killing being an area that our team has to improve on, and I think it's our responsibility, our coaching staff's responsibility to get the power play going.
What's the biggest challenge of having, of getting your team to understand the identity with having a different coach for the second year?
No, it's certainly. It's going to be important about the communication standpoints, about clarity. I think you saw that in day one of practice. It was an intense practice. There was a lot of compete, a lot of battle, but there was also stoppages, right? Lane wants to keep things going. He wants to keep the tempo of practice going, but when there's an opportunity for a learning moment, you got to talk about it there. And look, Lane will talk to you more too. It's about they came in great shape but that's going to allow us to move on to our system right away. And part of it is, pushing them and allowing them to make decisions and understand the system when they're exhausted out there. And you saw some exhausted players at the end of it, but still, them trying to understand the system. We're going to make mistakes. There's going to be a lot of that, but it's going to be to develop our culture. Is going to be something where you stop. There's coaching from that standpoint, but it's just not Lane. It's the entire staff being on the same level. And what I've liked over the last couple of weeks here, you see the continuity with the coaching staff, but also once the Coachella Valley staff came in, sort of reinforcing that same messaging has been fun to watch.
I know Jared had surgery after the season. How's he kind of come back to you, and what's your kind of outlook for him, seeing him get back into the mix and coming in? How much did that affect him last year?
Well, look, there was a few different players that we had that dealt with injuries from that standpoint, and that's what excites us right now is that guys are in great shape. You're going from in. It's disappointing that Monty's not out there right now, but you look at a guy like Jared. He plays the way we want to play, right? Plays with speed. He's one of our best shooters. We're going to be a team that needs to continue to look for goals. He's a guy that can provide us goals. He's a player that plays both special teams for us if needed. So just that versatility of being able to play a lot of different spots in our lineup, the speed that he has, the shot that he has, we're ecstatic to have him back and looking forward to see what he can start off the year on a positive note.
Pardon the longer-winded question here, but
Yep.
just something I saw in an article in The Athletic the other day. Don Decision did an article about looking at the no state tax advantage and seeing how big of a deal that is or not. And one of the ways that he focused on the teams with the no state tax, like you guys are able to leverage that, is through signing bonus money in contracts, because of course that's taxed all in the state that's in. And he kind of broke it down by teams and looked at their larger contracts and what percentage of that contract was bonus money. And at the top, you had the Florida Panthers, like 81%. And then one thing I noticed, though, at the bottom was the Kraken about 9% on their larger contracts. So I'm curious, just why is that?
Look, it's a scenario where we've utilized some of the CB things to our advantage. We believe, it hasn't come up a lot in our discussions with players. When we're going out to try to bring players in here, you're looking to them wanting to be a part of Seattle, wanting to be part of our mix. Our ownership has given us the ability to utilize sign-in bonus if it needs to and stuff. Just like these beautiful facilities that we're at right now, it's the same thing from a CBA standpoint. We can certainly go after it if we need to. It's just been something that hasn't come up, and we've always tried to work with agents to find a mix where the player is ecstatic about coming to Seattle and also feels that they're comfortable from a financial standpoint.
Do you feel it's going to wrap it up here pretty quick? Is it a useful way to lower AAV and a tool that could be in your toolbox? Or?
Well, look, I love that it's always lower AV. I think you lower, I think it's a part of the equation of some contracts and stuff from that standpoint, for sure. I think, you have to continue to develop your organization and your situation where players want to come here and want to come to be a part of success. And that's the point that we have to get to. We have to get back to the playoffs where, free agents out there are wanting to come to our organization to be a part of success moving forward. And I think that's when you get lower AAVs and contracts.
Thank you.
Thanks, boss.
All right, enjoy your day.